So stats, let's just start with like what people are feeling in the market. Like what are you feeling in the market?
It's very mixed.
Mixed?
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say it's mixed?
So I went 2 weeks, with people looking at the house, and then all of a sudden 1 week, I got 3 or 4 people who were very interested. Yeah. I've got buyers where, they're looking at houses actively, but they're like, oh, I don't know. And then it goes away. Right. So it's like very mixed. It's not just clearly a buyer's market, and it's not clearly a seller's market. That's my experience only.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, we've, as an industry, have defined a buyer's market as, less than 4 months of inventory, and 4 to 6 months is a balanced inventory, and 6 months or more is, vice versa. 0 to 4 is sellers, 4 to 6 is balanced, over 4 is the buyer's market, which I think that thought process of how to measure a buyer market was a thought process that was developed by realtors back in like the early 2000s. And I believe before we even had like MLS indexing out onto the internet, it was still when we received paper MLSs. So I think that thought process of how we value if we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market, it's not ideal. I'm actually working on a new way to look at that. Not ready to reveal that yet, but it is. I think it's more than just, hey, do we have this much inventory on the market or not? There's a little bit more nuance to it, but I do. We've been saying it's fickle, is what I've been hearing a lot lately. It's and I talked to a mega agent a few months ago, and she said what I thought was interesting. She said whether it's a buyer or seller's market, it depends on the house, and a house that's done correctly is a seller's market. A house that's done poorly is a buyer's market. So if you're not setting that listing up correctly, then you're setting that up for a failure as you go forward. The other thing, and I've said this, is the secondary thing is bulletproof the transaction. And today I'm going to show you some numbers that are going to accentuate that thought process. Is when you're putting together offers, or you're putting, especially on the listing side. I'm going to talk listing side more than buy side on that. If you're on the listing side of it, bulletproofing offers that come in is going to be super important. Right now, we're seeing, I think it's like 14.5% delta between pendings and closings. So that means 1 in 6, 1 in 7 homes that went under contract is not getting sold. Okay, that's a big number. And then at 12.5%, it was the biggest it's been in like 5 years. And the MLS doesn't track that. I have to get that from our lenders. But now we've moved up another 2% in the last month. So that number is growing. Yeah.
It's the highest you've ever seen.
Well, the problem is that's not specifically tracked by the MLS. It was the highest we've ever seen in the last 3 years, according to the lenders that I'm getting the information from. But now that it's moved up another 2.5%, it's got to be probably close to 5 years that it's the highest it's been at. So, or even greater, probably because 2020 nothing was coming out, right? If you put something under contract, that's closed, because you were afraid you weren't going to get another thing under contract for another 5 years. So it's probably the highest it's been since at least probably 2018. That's the last time we've seen this kind of a soft ish in the market. So, anyways. Median sales price, overall median sales price, not bad, just down 1.6. We're talking overall MLS. We throw in just the overall MLS. Started talking with Josh this morning about the numbers and have to get this all set up. Cool. So you're noticing King County's down 2.3. The reason why I wanted to put in the counties, because when I did this research last week, is Snohomish County's up a little bit in price point. So we're up, 2.3%, sorry, 1.2%, down 2.3 in King. So you're actually seeing a little bit of the numbers move in positive direction for Snohomish County. Any ideas, any thoughts? Like what do you think would be leading to that?
Pierce is more north, right?
Pierce is south. It's gonna be
Okay,
like
so it's
Tacoma.
okay.
Well, Pierce is an interesting thing there. For Pierce, possibly. I think in Snohomish County, so Pierce County, one of the things that think about is it's a lower price point. So people are gonna travel, like if they're really serious and they're working SeaTac or they're working Seattle, instead of living north, maybe they live south. You know, if you're working downtown Seattle, like what's the commute difference if I live in Bothell versus I live in Tacoma? It's not much of a difference, but there's a huge difference in price point, right? Bothell's median price point is going to be in the eights. Down in Pierce, our median is 585. So you're just getting more house. They also come with bulletproof jackets and, you know, but if you want to be able to afford to, you know, purchase a home and get your foot in the door, that's, you know, kind of where you're going. It's also more blue collar. So which is trades are on the rise, right? So I think the secondary thing is, and I think Snohomish County is going to see a little bit more of this. Boeing is in a huge hiring, like right now. Like they are hiring as fast as they can. I know like 3 or 4 people that just switched into Boeing right now, and their pay is competitive. They do really well. So, and then I have a couple friends that have retired from Boeing that are getting called back because they can't hire fast enough. So they put their pension on ice, go back for a year or so until Boeing can catch up with the hiring. That's the point at which they're at. So they are in a big hiring deal right now, which more money being influxed into the market means things will be better up here. So you have in King County, you have especially East Side. If you look at East Side numbers, really hurting. Duval was in pretty much a free fall. This month, it's kind of come back to at least even now. So it's not in the free fall that it was. But in Seattle and that King County, northern King County portion, and the east side, you have a lot of tech jobs that are going to affect that in a pretty negative way. There's a lot of tech jobs, and there's more layoffs coming. So that's just, it puts a hesitation on the market, right? Okay, so that's just prices. Okay, so this is new listings. And so one of the things we have to understand is when we have new listings coming up, so going up positive, which this number is going to be positive right now. So Snohomish County 17% increase, entire MLS 9.1, but Snohomish County tons of new listings. King County 11.8, here's 2.6. So we're seeing just an influx of inventory. So who here has heard like, hey, there's just not inventory? This is one thing that absolutely drives me crazy is when I hear agents tell me, hey, there's just no inventory.
Can't find it.
I can't find it yet.
You're looking at Snohomish City, not the county.
Oh, am I? I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. I was looking at, my charts were different than yours, so I was trying to figure out.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Makes it even more apparent. So 21.6% up. Let's go back to the sales prices. Oh, so much. You know what? I must have did that in my original research too. So down 5%. Thank you very much. But 23% up in inventory. 21.6% up in inventory. So we're having a huge inventory flux, right? And so just be aware that that's also going to drive, when we're looking at the opposite side, what our current amount of inventory on hand is. So that brings me back to what I was saying is we hear the words, there's just no inventory. I can't find anything. We have more inventory on the market right now than we've had in a long time. Let's take a look at that because so we go to homes for sale. So this is our current, and you notice that line is above everything that's been in the last 3 years. And if I switch up to 10 years, you know, it's probably higher than it has been since 2019. So we have more inventory than we've had in the last 7 or 8 years. So there's plenty of inventory on hand. What's the issue with it? It's people are fickle. So that's kind of the word that I'll keep coming back to is depending on what they want or what's available. They're just not willing to have that, to go down that road. Secondarily is a lot of people don't want to make repairs because they don't know that the repairs are going to equal out to a positive for them right now. So they're bringing things to market that aren't prepped. And because we're seeing such a large fall off, we're seeing more agents not stage, not get the properties ready for sale. Yeah.
No, I'm saying I agree. I see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah. So we're seeing this over and over. And what we're looking at is we're seeing less preparation going in. And what that leads to is it leads to more people just, sitting on the sidelines. They're like, hey, this isn't ready. If you went back to 2020, 2021, man, a lot that, yes, you had things that came to market that weren't prepared and they just sold, and that was just coming to the market at the time. You're running less than a half a month of inventory, and you're running just everything that puts on the market is just being sold right away. So, however, those items, when we talk about things that we're selling for $250,000 over asking, those are items that were prepped and ready to go. And in today's market, the things that are getting prepped are at least getting sold. And it's not always that way. Depends on, did you do the research and are you untying your emotion to the reality of it? So we have a property, or not we, an agent has a property that I know that's on the Duval. They came in at 980. There's 20 homes. It's all part of Cameron, CR, or whoever that built it. There's about 200 homes in the complex. But there's 20 homes that go back to back in one row. And they're all the same. They're cookie cutter. Front to back, it's like 19 homes. It's like one size, one shorter. The lowest price, which they bought their home, they got the lowest priced one in the unit. They paid $980 for it. Highest priced one was like $1.3 million. They've been on the market now for over 60 days. They went on at what they purchased at $980, and they can't sell it. They just dropped it to $950, still can't sell it. There's been no sales in those 20 homes in the last 3 years. So there's just, and you're looking at Duval, and the secondary issue is they're emotionally invested, right? They're emotionally invested in this home. If they really want to sell it, they only have one option. They have to meet the market. And unfortunately, we need to be really prepared to have that conversation with those clients. When you have new construction going in a half a mile away at $899 and your home is $950, and they're almost apples to apples, what are people buying? They can buy the new construction. They're going to say this is $50,000. They're going to buy the new construction. They're going to sit on the market. So you have to really be objectively not looking for necessarily for your client, but the way that you're looking for your client out for your client is by making sure that you present all the information, not just the portion that meets what they want to achieve. Okay. Pending sales. Now remember, I told you the delta between pending sales and closed is at the highest trend. So pending sales for the entire MLS, we're up 5.8%. Fantastic, right? But then when we go to closed sales, this is so weird. So not as bad. So what's interesting is when I pulled the numbers on the first, there was a 14.5%. I don't know what shift is. But now we're at like a 4%. So that's a lot better. I don't know why there's a shift in that. I'm gonna have to go back and maybe take a look at it. There's still going to be a delta. That is kind of good news to me that we're not seeing as bad of a deal. But I'm wondering if I clicked on something wrong. That's wild. So in Snohomish County, you can see that it went from 16.1 to 8, so that's an 8%. That's better than the 12.5 that it was last month. It's not. We still want to shore that up. And overall, only down 4%, which is pretty good actually. I'm gonna have to go back to the numbers and verify why I'm not seeing what I saw. Normally I present from slides. I don't have time to do the slides, so interesting. Go back and see why things shifted, or maybe they just need the numbers updated until like the second. So I was looking up. Anyways, so that's good news. We're seeing an increase in overall closed sales. Yeah, go ahead.
Issue is that your timeline is 2016 to 2026.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this number here, right here. This is, so right here, when you're doing the monthly, this is gonna give me month over month, year over year. So this number is what I'm looking at right here.
Okay,
So, overall, Snohomish is up 8.5%. King is down 6.1. So we are seeing more sales coming in the Snohomish County area to close than we are in the King County area. But more as a percentage, King County is gonna smoke us on the actual units, but the actual percentage year over year is rising in Snohomish County versus falling in King County. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Days on market. Well, that's an interesting number, right? So days on market, we're up 25%, 15 days. And this is on median days on market. Anybody know why I like to look at median days on market? I've said this a few times ago. Because this is how I like to think about it. Median means what?
The middle.
The middle, exactly. So the middle was 15 days, which means 50% of homes sold in the first 15 days.
Mhm.
So when we look at average and it jumps to 45, it means those crappy homes or the homes that are not being prepared are sitting way longer. So that right side of the equation is getting crazy. Left side, the side that's 0 to 15, we're selling 50% of the inventory in the first 15 days. Right? That's why I love looking at median versus the average. So now the average, we're total MLS 37, King 27, Snohomish 29, Pierce 33. So 37 days. So from 15 to 37. In COVID times or in the year after, 2 years after, those numbers were like a 1 to 2 day difference between the two. Now it's more than double between the median and the average. So that means the stuff, when I say fickle, it means that those items, the houses that are prepared for market are selling. The houses that are not are sitting.
Mhm.
We're seeing it, and it's getting to be a wider divide.
During those COVID times, the median was like 5 days.
Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
What was the
That's
average
half of the
during the
home.
same time?
I'd say the average was 10.
So yeah, 5 day difference. So
That's so funny. I've never heard it described that way, but that's exactly how like half of the homes sold at that or less.
yeah, isn't that wild to think? So when people are like, "Hey, things aren't selling," no, 50% of the inventory is selling in the first 2 weeks. 50%. So if you're sitting on that market for more than those 15 days, and shoot, I'll raise my hand. Maybe we got stuff out there like 200 days. But it is also have, some land listings that land I wouldn't throw in the same boat, but if we have a home and it's sitting out there, you really have to start thinking like, are we in the right place for this home? And are we taking the market? Are we doing the price reductions, price corrections in order to get the home sold? And does that align? Like, have I really evaluated what that home is worth compared to the market and come to that right number? So, month supply pending, total MLS 5.1. Look at that number. Look at that. Here we are. We're above this line here. 5.1. Let's go back. This is a 10-year history. It's never been above that number in the last 10 years. So when we talk about that other 50% that's sitting on the market, it's driving your month's supply. Like, it's just, we have a massive
So one of the
Let's say that we have a massive supply.
inventory is way up.
Supply in 10 years.
No, so that would be our homes for sale. This is our supply. So supply level is here. So, this is our supply level. And it's
I'm
2000
gonna say probably November. It probably will. It'll peak. We will see inventory get to records because if you look at the cycle of these, it's usually it does peak out in June, July, but I just think that we're going to have a lot of leftover inventory.
I think you're right. I think we're going to continue to grow for the next few months. So in the next few months, we're going to continue to see this. And so it might, right now we're kind of in that 2018. We're higher than anything since 2018. we'll be close to 2007, probably 2016, 17, maybe 10 years by the end of the year. So, because we still have another few months where we'll see record numbers come on the market and we won't have that sales coming off the market. So we'll, because, you know, we kind of get a lull for July 4th. Everybody shut off their fireworks. Now we need to relax. So our clients are relaxing. And then so this next week in July, we'll start to see more inventory come back on. And then we'll ramp up through August. And then we'll kind of get this really big push in August as people want to get things on before the school year, right? And that's kind of like our second push of the summer is it's like mid-August to early September is where we see that second push. So closed sales, on the that was month supply pending, month supply closed. Also just off the charts, 5.2, 20% increase year over year in the amount of months of supply of closed inventory. So our inventory levels are rising. So we would say in the old school thought process, 4 to 6 months is going to be, you know, where you're in a balanced market. Yeah.
What does it mean, months of supply? What is that?
So if nothing else came on today, how long would it take me at the current rate of sale to sell everything that
Sell
we have?
everything on the market. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And that's months supplied to closed
Okay.
versus the previous one we were looking at, how many months would it take us to go pending? So
I see.
where we see pendings, we get more pendings and we don't get as many closed. That's why that pending
Right.
number is a little bit lower. It'll always be a little bit lower than the months supply closed.
Thank you.
So is it affecting what you're getting for your dollar? So percent to original. So you notice I gloss over the percent to list, and here's the reason why. Percent to list is if I come on the market and then I come off the market and I come on with a new price, then percent to list is based off of that new price. Percent to original is from the first time it was listed, unless there's a 90-day gap or more, then it completely resets because it kind of goes with your CDOM. So what's my percent to the original list price? So that's what I look at. You know, we're at like 1%. Yeah. 0.8, I think 1.2, 0.8, flat down in Pierce County. So 1% is still pretty significant, but it's not like, I mean, you go back in 2022 where, you know, we're doing 10%
Yeah,
over.
crazy.
That's crazy. And you're not going to see that, or we haven't seen it since. And we're also not seeing the real dip that we've had before. So we're kind of in that pocket where it's like, you might be able to get a little bit of something, but if the home was priced correctly and done right, you're probably not getting a huge amount. If the home was priced incorrectly and you're coming in there with a fair offer at what it should have been to start with, or a little bit shy of that, then you might be able to get it. And it also depends on emotionality. So this person is emotionally invested to this product, to their property, then you might not get as much as you hope for. Oh, we're in a car. I was like, what's going on back there? All right. So dollar volume, just shy, 0.8% down. So the conversation I was having this morning, I like to nerd out. Once it's kind of my day to nerd out, I always get attached with some lenders and I have some conversations, even on days that I'm not doing this. So I found a conversation this morning, and one of the things that we're seeing, especially the lender field, lenders that are newer are having a tougher time than they've had in the past. The people that were closing like 1 to 5 are now closing 0 to 1. So they've really trailed off. So they're having a tougher time getting past it. I gotta say, and I made the point this morning, I think we have in our coaching program here, we are driving that for newbies. I think as a whole in the real estate market, where we're seeing the biggest hurt is newer agents that have not done or have only done 1 or 2 units are doing nothing. And fortunately, with our coaching program, we're starting to see that momentum pick up. And we've become, as an office, more profitable than we've been in years. And a lot of that has to do with new agents coming into production, right? And so that's kind of a microcosm of the actual office compared to the Northwest MLS versus the total Northwest MLS. I think that also has to do with having somebody who holds you accountable to do the things that you need to do. Because this is there is a right opportunity with prices and inventory out there to go out and get your share of this or your unfair share, as we like to say, right? It's about going out and doing it. You cannot allow the numbers you see on the screen in order to dictate your activities in order to get the business. So if you come in and go, well, there is no business, and I put up zeros, then there will be no business, right? But if you have to also secondarily understand that you're going to have to do more business, more activities to equal the same amount of business. I brought this up in our ALC meeting, and I'll tell you this, is in our ALC meeting, I made a point that right now you need to do 80% more activities to equal the same amount of business. And that just has to do with the increase in inventory versus the sales. So and this month will be different. I haven't done the exercise this month, but let's look at the amount of homes for sales. So we're up 16%, which is not as bad as we were 3 months ago, where we're up 79%. And then closed sales, we're up 1. So that's a delta of 15%. So in order for me to do the same amount of business, I need to do 15% more activity. And really, in reality, I probably even need to do more in order to get that right now, because we have more.
And the work is harder.
And the work is harder, absolutely. There's just so much to be done, and there's so many questions that we're getting pushed onto the agency. So without getting too much into that, there's tools also for you to help you with that as well. So if you're struggling with like, how do I read this, or what do I do with that? I'm using Notebook LM. I know I'm going to be teaming up with Nathan and doing something for his coaching class. I haven't set a date yet, but if you don't know, Notebook LM only looks at the data that you put into it, so it doesn't go out to the web. And have you used it?
It's rag, right?
It is. So I'm using it right now on Short Drive, or listing out on Short Drive. I put all the documents I could find publicly that I knew associated with it, and now I can just ask it questions. I'm like, give me a timeline for this property, all timelines documented through all documents, so on and so forth. It pumps out a timeline. It was platted in 1948. Then it was these 3 plots were drawn into one. It gives me the whole thing without any, like, it just in seconds. And then it documents where it pulled it from. So there are tools to help you go faster. You have to adopt them. And so just be aware of what's going on and what you need to do with it. But anyways, that's a side tangent. All right. Shows to pending. So what's interesting is earlier in the year, the shows to pending was actually, it was hurting. Like we were needing more showings to get to pending. And you look at this, you can kind of see here where it's kind of dropped off. Like it's taking less showings to get to pending. That's great news. And that's kind of more of a leading indicator than a lagging indicator, right? Still, I would say it's closer to being a leading indicator, still after the fact, but it gives us closer to, hey, this is how many showings I need to get. And so I like to use this also with clients as, hey, we've had 20 showings. Hasn't sold yet. What's going on? We need to think about what's going on here. So your marketing can get them in the door, and things you do can get people in the door, but it doesn't make them pull the trigger. So what's that delta between those two? Like what's the difference between those two items? Like why hasn't that happened for you? But if you're just looking at overall, this is a great indicator of the market. Like, and during the summer, normally we're a little bit lower. During the winter, we're going to be a little bit higher. And then overall showings per listing, this hurts because you need 7 showings to get pending according to the data, but we're only getting 3.1. So that would tell you you're going to sit, and if you go back to like your month supply pending, you're at 5.1. Well, then that makes sense, right? So, anyways, that's that. So I think saying all this, and I kind of bring the market into a nutshell. It's not terrible. It's not great. We're kind of in this middle pickle ground. If we prep the property correctly, So, so if you prep the property correctly, it's getting sold quickly, 15 days. If we're not, it's lagging. And so we need to be really real with ourselves on where are we at in that scope. Am I going to allow things to slide? And having those hard conversations. We had a conversation with a client 2 days ago, Monday or Tuesday. So yesterday, it was about a 2.5 hour conversation, but running them through all the things that needed to be done on the property to be ready to go to market. And they pushed back a lot. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, I'm sorry. That's going to have a real effect. It might, well, give me the exact number. They're engineers. The exact number that is going to affect my sale. Like, we can't, but what we can tell you is if you, especially on something on the front, this is kind of an explanation I gave to them. We're talking about a driveway, redoing a driveway because it's all busted up and then the walkway, the stairs are the wrong height. So as you walk up, you trip. It's one stair's tall, one stair's short. It's just, so we're talking about replacing it. And so, well, the fence is also messed up. So why don't I do the fence? Why the driveway, not the fence? And so my explanation was simple. The driveway gets you in the door. It allows the person to get that emotional connection with the property. Once they have an emotional connection with the property, if we want to talk about the fence, and not that we're not going to do the fence, we'll clean it, we'll do some general repair for some replace it. But let's get them into the house first. If they pull up to the driveway, it's busted up, and then they start walking up and they trip because the stairs were poured at the wrong height. By the time they get in the house, they're already frustrated. There's no emotional connection to it, right? Let's get them emotionally invested. I don't know that that's going to give you more dollars, but what it will give you is it will give you more people. And more people generally gives you more dollars. Do we have an exact conversion of the market cycle? So I don't live with a crystal ball, but I will tell you from what we've seen, this is what's going to happen for you. All right. That's enough. Questions, thoughts, processes, ahas.
So I think as you talk about sellers, and you're looking at the marketplace, I think the important thing to do in talking through the numbers is number one, to show it. Secondarily is understand what their motivation is. Because looking at these numbers, people are calling you, they're talking to you about selling because they have a reason. If you don't know that reason and you don't understand their motivation, then the numbers are going to be harder to explain. And I guess a way to put that is, if you are a seller who had put off selling your home and now you're kind of in a spot where you need to because it's time to get a smaller home, you can't maintain it. There's going to be a lot of trepidation around making it a beautiful home, right? Because you're like, geez, I've been waiting and now it's trash. What do I do? And I think that explaining that this market, a home like that will sit and you'll end up getting less money as a result. So being able to kind of convey the real motivation. If their motivation is just like, and this is a good suggestion, if somebody's in that case scenario, you can say, look at what, is it that you're trying to get into a assisted living facility? Or is it that you're getting to move to Arizona closer to your family? Is it that? Because then let's think of a very aggressive pricing strategy then, because that's what's going to get you to where you're at. And you've lived there for 20 years, you've made $1 million in the house. What's another $20,000, $30,000? Let's be aggressive with that. So being able to explain it.
Yeah, and you talk about getting to like that the reason, and I like to call it like the root cause. And I like to say, like, you can't just ask the one question. And I like to use bedrooms, like I'm working with a buyer, for example. When you ask a buyer, like, how many bedrooms do you need? Like 4. If you just end the conversation there, you cut out a lot of the market. Do you need 4 because you want 3 in a den or 3 in an office? Because that changes my search criteria, right? Do you need 4 because you have kids? Do you need 4 because you have a mother-in-law? Well, now I need a primary on main, right? Or it changes what you're looking for. So don't stop with the first answer to it. Dig deeper. dig, we just call it 3D, I think, right? You have to ask the question, ask again, go 3D on each one of those.
And you know what? If you're not getting anywhere, the best question is, well, if you did know, what would it be?
I like that.
And a lot of times people just don't, they're just not reflective. But if you did know, I know.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's about how do I pose these questions in order to get the answers needed. And really, I think a lot of times, especially when we're starting in the industry, we're really nervous with asking questions around finances, numbers that you can't really do that way. So we talked about somebody moving into assisted living. We have somebody, we're going to come to market pretty soon, and they don't have that option. So they bought it 300,000-ish, let's say. The house is worth roughly 850, 900 right now. But they just kept refinancing, pulling out HELOCs and adding into it. So today they don't have that money. And so where's it at? Well, they did a ton of stuff to the house. Everything I asked them was top of the line cabinets, top of the line windows, $60,000 window package, full remodel, $40,000 into the primary bath. I have a 10-foot shower, no step shower. So, when you start to ask those, then you start to reveal, oh my gosh, it's not just, hey, I got window treatments. No, I got fully automated window blinds that go up and down on their own. And that's $14,000 back. Okay, now I see where the money's going. You don't have the space. We need to do these few things in order to, they did all that, but the carpets look like they're from the 80s, right? Pull out the carpets, put new carpets in. Let's go to market. Let's get this thing done. So, anyways, but really good point is, what's the motivation? Why are you moving? What are the numbers? Let us know what's happening here, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Because the inventory is so high right now, if you're talking to a seller, you maybe have to point out that they have to be price competitive, and maybe on a price per square foot, they would have to lower their expectations. Especially if the inventory is as high as it is that they're looking to sell in that kind of an environment.
So it depends on how fast my clients want to sell. Like if they're okay, so some of our clients right now, they want the highest dollar, and we will prep them and say, hey, look, we'll put it on for that number, but in 2 weeks, let's have a conversation. We're going to need to bring it down to this. Yeah. This is what we're telling you it's worth, and we're okay coming on here, but we need to then reevaluate in 2 weeks or whatever the number is.
Because that high inventory matters, right? If you're jumping into that type of environment, you have competition.
Correct. And depends on what you're bringing to market too. So, for example, we have a 1.99 property on Echo Lake in Stalmish, which is higher than anything else on the market. It's completely tricked out, and I was like, man, and this is going to be a nightmare. There's nothing, our numbers on this. We said 1.8. Why are we at 1.99? Very, very first open house. It connects, sends the client over to Josh. They're pre-approved. They have their own lender, but not their own lender. They have their own agent, and so they're putting together an offer. They're going to put their home on the market. And they're looking to make an offer at the 1.99. So, it's so fickle.
Yeah.
Once again, going back to the word fickle,
Sure.
is if you're putting together something that's really best in class, then you can test that market at the higher number. But overall, typically that doesn't work, right?
But also the percentage of original price, it's going under 100, right? I know it's still in the 90s over the last year or so, but it's still the general trend is downwards, where sellers may have to compromise on the original price or list price, right?
Yeah. Also, look, you do have a cyclical motion to the percent over. So during the summer, we start to see it. So if I look here, we start to see that trend come down in June-ish. Let's see, that's June right there. That's June's here, so it came down in August there.
That's just activity.
So on this one, we start to see that trend a little bit earlier. So is it something to be aware of? I also think, there's so many uncertainties right now that could be driving that, but there's not a 100% correlation to. So we want to say, it's the war, it's this, it's that, it's gas prices, and it's all these types of things. But there's not a 100% correlation to it. We can only look at it and go, I feel like
Right, right.
there's this happening. And so, but yes, there's truth to it. Hey, we're a little bit under, but it's at this point in time, it's very small. It's very small. Any other ahas? Thoughts?
Hey, Brittany, can you hear everything okay from where you're at? I'm just getting a take on sound right now.
I can hear.
What?
I can hear.
You can hear? Okay, thank you.
All right. I think the other thing, and Aparna and I are working on some stuff with AI, but is to then take this and how do you like share this inside of your own bubble? How do you take and interpret what's happening in the market to your own sphere? And so I think use AI to help you. It's trust but verify, right? You got to take a look. Don't let it hallucinate on you. But share it out. Like share the thoughts out to your clients. Don't hide it underneath clay pot. Let them get it out there. But it's important to have that conversation. I don't know how we've been putting on we do videos on the properties that we're doing. And for the most part, I just stick it on the MLS. But I've been, instead of utilizing what the photographers done, I created just a YouTube channel and I just stick them on there. And I thought I'm gonna get like 2 or 3 views. We're up to like over 200 views on a couple of them, which isn't like, I'm not saying it's going viral or anything, but it was an aha, like, hey, it doesn't have to be this like over the top. These are unbranded videos. And obviously if they look at our channel, then they can see, hey, Infinity Ridge Properties and have our information. But to be in compliance with the MLS, the actual video is completely unbranded and they're getting views and it's nothing special. So don't think you have to go and have this like over the top production in order to make this happen. We got video footage. I uploaded it to Fiverr. I asked the Fiverr person to do it. Paid $30. Put it on there.
The easy way to do it is it useful? Is the video useful?
Correct.
Because it doesn't have to look great, but if it's got great information and helps to get more, then you're in a good spot.
So get the views, get the people, send out information, have a great time. Any other questions, comments? Nothing? All right, thanks guys. Dan will be up in 12 minutes and he has got a packed day for you. Just kidding, I have no idea.
Thank you, Angel.
Thanks, Daniel.